All right, next up on our tips and tricks and troubleshooting, I actually have an add-on that I want to share with you, and it's completely free within Blender. If we go up here to Edit, References, go ahead and drag this to the center here. If we go into Extensions, which is what they're calling it now, they used to call it add-ons, they used to call it plugins, but if we search up here for Cell, you'll see something that says CellFracture. Now that our extension is properly installed, I'm going to go up here to Object, Quick Effects, CellFracture. And now as soon as I click on that, I'll be able to basically break apart my model into a bunch of different pieces. And this is super useful, and I'll explain why. Let's go ahead and click on our cube first. Now we're going to need a little bit more dimension to our cube. So if you tab into edit mode, which I just did, go ahead and right click, subdivide this a couple of times. That should be fine. Tab out of edit mode. Now we're going to go ahead and go to Object, Quick Effects, CellFracture. We're going to get this kind of little pop-up here. I think I'll just go with all of the standard settings. There's a lot to go through here. You guys can play with this on your own. One of the most important things is the source limit, which is basically how many times it's going to break this apart. I'm going to press OK, and you're going to notice now it's actually split this model up into a bunch of different pieces. Now our original cube, I'm going to hide that. That's this one up here. I'm just going to go ahead and hide that from our scene. Now we have all these objects to work with. Now there's plenty of ways you can split this up and fracture this object. I think this looks fine for now. If you want it to be more crystallized and break up more organically, you can also adjust those settings as well. I'm going to go ahead and click on my end cube here, and we're going to give this some physics, and then we're going to copy over our physics to everything else. So I'm going to go ahead and just give this a rigid body, active, and I'll choose mesh for the shape type for the collisions. Now that we have that, I'm going to hold shift, highlight everything else. I'm going to go up here to object, rigid body, object, rigid body, and copy from active. Now everything looks good. It looks like all the origins are set properly, but if they're not, right click, set origin to geometry, and now we're good to go. Now, one more thing to consider is we're actually going to need to scale these down. So making sure they're all still selected. Now we're going to go up to the top and change the pivot point. I'm going to go ahead and click right here, transform pivot point, individual origins. Then I'm going to press S to scale. And we're just going to scale these down quite a bit so they're not touching. Now you guys can scale these down a lot or a little. You can see as I scale them down just how many pieces we have. I think I'll just scale them down just a little bit. That looks good. And now we need a platform for them to fall on. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Add, Mesh, Plane. I'm going to scale this up. And I'm just going to bring it below, scale it up quite a bit. And I'm going to give it a rigid body type passive. Now if we go all the way back to frame 0 or 1, now we have a bunch of falling pieces from our cube. Now, if you get this just right, you can make it look like a solid cube that then falls apart. Now, this is pretty cool. There's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do with this, especially if you want to seem like a model is disintegrating and kind of give that effect. There's a lot of interesting things you can do with CellFracture. The reason I didn't originally include it in my previous chapters is because it's technically just an add-on. It's not really physics, but when we integrate physics with all of these pieces that we've just fractured, you can get some pretty interesting results. Now you'll notice one of these pieces goes flying. If you remember from my previous tips and tricks, there's probably a reason for that. And more than likely it has to do with the collision margin or even potentially the mass of the object. I want to go ahead and back up on these frames and see if I can locate the issue. It looks like it's not overlapping with anything. Maybe it just hits in a weird way. But if you weren't happy with that piece, you could simply delete it after you bake. And this looks awesome. So have fun with this one, guys. CellFracture is a guaranteed fun way to break apart items. And if you really want to, you can break a piece up to like 1,000 different sections, I think. And you can actually make more organic cuts. Right now, this is very geometric and it does look good, but there's a lot more that you can do with this technique if you just mess around with the settings a little bit. Have fun, and let's go ahead to our next tip and trick.